It was supposed to be just another late evening at the office. My wife, Emily, had texted me hours earlier saying she would be working overtime with her boss to prepare for an important client presentation. I believed her without question because trust had never been a problem in our 8 years of marriage. Still, something felt strangely different that night. Her replies became shorter, colder, almost mechanical. Around 10:30 p.m., I decided to surprise her with coffee from her favorite cafe. I had no idea that a simple act of love was about to shatter everything I thought I knew about my marriage forever. When I reached the company parking garage, I noticed Emily's car still parked in its usual spot. The office lights on her floor were completely dark. Confused, I called her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. A strange knot tightened inside my stomach. Just as I was about to leave, I saw her boss, Daniel, walking toward the executive apartments attached to the corporate building. A few seconds later, Emily quietly followed him, looking around as if making sure nobody was watching. My heartbeat pounded so loudly that I could barely hear my own thoughts. Every instinct told me to walk away, but I couldn't. Keeping my distance, I followed them through the hallway until they entered Daniel's private suite. The curtains weren't fully closed, leaving just enough space for me to see inside. My entire body froze. I watched as Emily slowly removed her shoes, smiled nervously, and climbed onto the large bed beside Daniel. He leaned closer to her while speaking softly. My hands began shaking uncontrollably. Tears blurred my vision as years of memories flashed through my mind. Our wedding, our first apartment, every promise we'd ever made. At that moment, I was convinced I had just witnessed the end of my marriage. I couldn't bring myself to confront them. Instead, I stumbled back to my car, unable to breathe properly. Questions attacked my mind from every direction. Had she been lying to me for months? Was this why she become so distant recently? By the time I reached home, I had already imagined divorce papers, lawyers, and an empty house filled with painful memories. Sleep never came that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emily climbing into Daniel's bed again. By sunrise, my heart had hardened into something I barely recognized, anger mixed with unbearable heartbreak. The following morning, Emily returned home looking exhausted. She smiled gently and asked why I looked so tired, but I couldn't even meet her eyes. Every word she spoke sounded like another lie. She kissed my forehead before heading upstairs to shower, completely unaware that I believed our marriage was already over. I quietly opened our shared laptop, searching for anything that could confirm my suspicions. Emails, messages, hidden folders, anything. After nearly an hour, I found absolutely nothing. There wasn't a single romantic message between her and Daniel. Instead of calming me, that only made everything more confusing. Later that afternoon, I decided to return to the office alone. I wasn't looking for revenge anymore. I wanted answers. As I entered the lobby, I overheard 2 security guards discussing something unusual. One mentioned that Daniel's executive apartment had become part of a confidential corporate investigation involving millions of dollars in missing company funds. My attention sharpened instantly. They said only a handful of employees knew about the operation because outside witnesses couldn't be trusted. Suddenly, tiny details from the previous night started replaying inside my head, but they still didn't explain why Emily had climbed into Daniel's bed. Unable to ignore the mystery any longer, I quietly followed another lead. One of Emily's co-workers accidentally mentioned she had volunteered for a dangerous undercover assignment weeks earlier. Before I could ask another question, she stopped talking and nervously apologized, saying she had already revealed too much. My confusion reached its peak. Undercover assignment? Dangerous operation? Nothing made sense anymore. Had everything I witnessed been real, or had I completely misunderstood what I saw through the half-open curtain? As I stood there searching for answers, my phone suddenly rang. The caller ID showed Emily, and her trembling voice said only 6 words. "Please don't come home. Trust me." My heart nearly stopped after hearing those 6 words. Before I could ask what was happening, the call ended. Every instinct told me to ignore her warning, but something in her frightened voice made me hesitate. Instead of driving home, I returned to the office district and waited across the street. Nearly an hour later, Several unmarked black SUVs surrounded the building. Men wearing jackets marked federal investigations rushed inside, while local police blocked every exit. Reporters began arriving within minutes. Whatever Emily had been hiding wasn't a affair. It was something far bigger, and I was standing outside the storm without knowing the truth. Unable to stay away, I moved closer until I spotted Emily being escorted from the building by two investigators. My stomach dropped, but then I noticed something unexpected. She wasn't handcuffed. Instead, the agents were protecting her from the growing crowd of reporters. Daniel was let out moments later in handcuffs, shouting that everyone had betrayed him. Flashing cameras lit up the street as boxes of financial records and hard drives were carried from the building. One investigator glanced at me before walking over quietly and asking, "Are you Emily's husband?" I nodded, terrified of what I would hear next. The investigator introduced himself and explained that Emily had been secretly helping authorities expose Daniel's corporate fraud network for nearly 3 months. Millions of dollars had disappeared through fake contracts, and several executives were involved. Because Daniel trusted Emily more than anyone else in the office, investigators needed her to gain access to evidence hidden inside his executive apartment. The scene I witnessed through the window had been carefully staged. She climbed into bed because a hidden safe containing encrypted drives was built into the headboard. From where I stood outside, it looked like betrayal. In reality, it was a final step of an undercover operation. I felt the weight of my own assumptions crash down on me. Emily finally walked over, her eyes filled with tears she had been holding back for weeks. She admitted she wanted to tell me everything from the beginning, but had signed strict legal agreements that forbade her from revealing the investigation, even to her husband. If Daniel suspected she was working with investigators, both the case and her safety could have been destroyed. Every cold reply, every late night, every canceled dinner had been part of maintaining her cover. The woman I believed had betrayed me had actually been risking everything to stop a criminal. That night, we sat together in silence after returning home. I confessed that I had followed her, watched through the window, and convinced myself our marriage was over before asking a single question. Emily didn't yell or blame me. Instead, she admitted she understood why anyone would believe what I had seen. Then she quietly placed a small envelope on the table. Inside was a handwritten letter she had prepared weeks earlier. If the operation had gone wrong, investigators were instructed to deliver it to me. In it, she wrote that no matter what happened, she had loved me every single day and hoped I would one day understand why she had to keep such a painful secret. Weeks later, the investigation dominated national headlines. Daniel and several executives were formally charged with fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. Emily received official recognition for her bravery, though most of her role remained confidential. Friends who had once questioned our marriage subtly understood why she had disappeared so often. Yet the greatest lesson wasn't about crime or justice. It was about trust. I realized that a single moment, viewed without context, can create a story that exists only inside our own minds. I had nearly destroyed 8 years of love because I believed my eyes without seeking the complete truth. Today, whenever someone asks how close we came to divorce, I simply smile and say they wouldn't believe the story if I told them. Sometimes the most shocking betrayal isn't committed by the person we love. It's committed by our own assumptions. I saw my wife climb into bed with her boss and believed our marriage had ended. In reality, she was risking her life to expose a criminal while protecting countless innocent people. That unforgettable night changed everything I thought I knew about trust, love, and appearances. And it taught me a lesson I'll carry for the rest of my life. The truth is often hidden just beyond what our eyes can see.